Well, kia ora, kia rana, talofa lava maloi lady, greetings to you all. Prime Minister, the Honourable John Key, nice to have you with us. Parliamentarians, the Honourable Tariana Turea, and the Honourable Winnie Laban and Hekia Parata, Mayor Jenny Brash and other very distinguished speakers and guests, ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls. When I was a Member of Parliament in Porirua in the 1990s, and the opposition spokesperson on communications, I visited the United States of America and met the chief executive of Bell Atlantic. And he told me about donating computers to the Christopher Columbus High School and other low-income schools in Union City in the state of New Jersey. This was not your average high school. It had a very high ethnic population mix in a very poor area. It was said then about these schools that these kids can't learn, they're too poor, they don't speak English well enough, and they don't come from the right background. When Bell Atlantic did this, these schools were suffering from extreme failure. Christopher Columbus High School had the highest absentee rate, the highest failure rate, and amongst the highest level of violence and graffiti in the state. Many of the parents did not have a job, and many were third generation unemployed. A number of them were given computers, and before long they were sending emails to the teachers, and many of them didn't know anything about computers, and they were sending it about their children's homework. A few years later when I was there, the violence, the graffiti, the absenteeism had almost disappeared altogether. And this high school had reached above the average attainment levels for the state, while some parents had started to get jobs. Now that's an amazing story. Well, what did it? At that time in Porirua in the 1990s, we had very high unemployment and schools were struggling. Unemployment was around 15% and amongst youths was up to 27%. And there were considerable social problems as a consequence. And I often felt, as a Member of Parliament, like an overpaid social welfare officer at the bottom of a cliff, trying to deal with the effects of this. But I had a dream, and that was if we could have used the experience of that high school and adapt it to Porirua, we could turn that problem around. A few years later, in the year 2000, with one of our trustees, Phil Major, we worked to establish the Porirua City Community IT Educational Trust, known as e-Learning Porirua. This would donate computers to the 24 low decile schools in Porirua City, many of whom had a very low ratio of computers to pupils. And at the same time, we'd use refurbished computers to train and give to families who didn't have a job and didn't have a home computer. By doing this, both the parents and the children at the same time could learn from each other, and that proved to be a very, very successful formula. The object of our trust was simple. It was to reduce unemployment and sustainably lift the attainment levels of students while increasing the social cohesion in our community. In the year 2001, when we started, the census figures showed that in the suburb of Whitby, 80% of houses had a computer. But in Porirua East, covering the suburbs of Waitangarua and Cannons Creek, just 6% of homes had a computer. With a lot of effort and fundraising, our trust is now trained and given over 800 home computers to families, comprising 1,100 adults and 3,100 children. This lifts them onto the first rung of the ladder, which they would not otherwise have done. Many of the parents have got jobs they would never have aspired to, or gone on to further training, because they gained not only the skills but the confidence to do so. And the real bonus, and one that we never thought about when we started and we didn't know how to measure this, is that the children are doing much better at school. Kids who can do their homework on a computer are not so disadvantaged. Without one, they are. They start behind and they stay behind, and that's not good for them or our society. Since our trust formation, We have contributed computers or finance for computers to the 24 low decile schools in the city with a combined roll of 7,000 students, and we have lifted the ratio of computers to pupils. At the last census in 2006, the ratio of computers in homes in Cannons Creek and Waitangaroa had lifted from 6% to between 25 and 32%, and it'll be higher now. Much of that can be attributed to the work of our trust. But there are, sadly, still 100,000 families in New Zealand without a home computer. They are from low-income households, mainly Māori and Pacific, and in my view, in a modern society, they are severely disadvantaged. They need a dream like I had when we started this, to believe that there is a better future, that they can fully participate in our society, otherwise they become a statistic. And that's not good for a modern economy and doesn't help lift our standard of living. That's why this Digital Porirua Trust is so important, and it will give many of these families a further chance to learn more about computers, which play such an essential part in their education and in employment. I want to acknowledge and thank the Minister of Education's Douglas Hare for recommending our trust to Hewlett Packard. They may not have known about us without him, so that we could sign up for this exciting project. I also want to thank Hewlett Packard for the confidence in our community by offering a grant of equipment and cash to make this digital project possible. Our Computers in Homes is a success story, but it costs us around $3,000 a family to undertake a 10-week training course, give a family a refurbished, upgraded computer, place them on the internet for 6 months, allocate the family a mentor from the Plymouth and Rotary Club for a year, and partner with Whitireia Community Polytechnic to assist with the training. This is a real community effort, but it does rely on very long-term commitment and dedication of volunteers, particularly our Board of Trustees. Prime Minister, if we want to deal with our rising unemployment, one very good way of doing so to mitigate against its effects is to continue with a higher level of funding for the Computers in Homes through the Department of Internal Affairs Community Partnership Fund. We're grateful for being able to draw on this fund over the past year, but it's a very, very good use, I think, to partner with communities like us, and from the government's viewpoint, it's very good bangs for the bucks. In addition, we've had to raise thousands of dollars to make the project work, and we've been supported locally by the Porirua Licensing Trust Mana Community Grants Fund, who have contributed over $400,000 in the last 8 years. We also received some initial grants from the Department of Labour's Community Employment Grant Scheme, the Community Trust of Wellington, the Lion Foundation, the Todd Foundation, and the New Zealand Community Trust. But that's wearing a bit thin the longer we go on. But what it does show is that these organisations believed in what we were doing and had thought that our project was worth investing in. If I could conclude by just telling you one success story as a result of our Computers in Homes project. An unemployed Waitangaroa mother with children at their local kindergarten was asked to help out at their kindy. She undertook our Computers in Homes course and was then asked if she'd like to handle the office and computer work, and she accepted. They liked what they saw and they gave her a job. After gaining her confidence and realising her competence, she underwent training to become a teacher. And that's what this is all about, making a difference, changing the lives of families by giving them something that they can look forward to. That's why we exist, and that's why I believe these sorts of projects are very worthwhile. Thank you very much.